The Brothers' Unescapable Fate. Short story. Once upon a time, in a public dorm in a specific college, a bunch of students lived in this college, where they learn and study to get a college degree. At least, that was true to some extent. However, there was another purpose behind the construction of this college, but it wasn't known until it was too late. But there's always a God watching over those students, and with a strong will, students might have a chance to escape this fate. This is where our story begins. When students reach the age of 18, they are sent to this college, where they leave their parents to study. Indubitably, you might think that these students chose to live in this dorm all by themselves, but this was mandatory. It was a cold night in the average part of the city, where Zach and Jeff lived with their parents. The younger brother was Zach, while the older brother was Jeff. Their mother was named Susan. The father was named Smith. There was a new baby born who still had no name. Zach was a kind-hearted brother who was generous to all living things, even insects. Zach loved his brother Jeff and was willing to do anything to please him because of the bond they shared and the promise they made to each other, which was that they will always keep each other safe, even in the riskiest situations. Jeff was also kind, but not as kind as his brother. He had a keen eye and a strange sense of justice. He loved philosophy. He was smart beyond his age. He liked chess and other thinking games, and puzzles. Because of his puzzling personality, he was a handsome sometimes, but he was still a good person. When the new baby born first opened her eyes, it was just great to look at her. She was beautiful and cute and had a good warm scent. There are a lot of conflicts about what name should be given to her. Jeff wanted to name her Blair, while Zach wanted to name her Emily. Their father wanted to name her Betty, while their mother wanted to name her Karen. They put a lot of thought into it and finally decided to name her Emily, the name that Zach suggested, since he was their favorite child, so they had to consent. Everything was looking bright, but life isn't always gold and shiny, and some things are just beyond our capabilities to stop. A letter arrived to the Smith-Nelson family, asking for Jeff to be admitted in the Great Gravies College, the college that held a terrible secret. The father read the letter quietly, fearing that the children might hear a whimp of what he was reading. He was so frightened, as if he saw a ghost, but he tried not to show his frightened expression. The reason was harsh, yet simple. If the university discovered that the adults revealed the secret to their children that are below 23 of age, the whole family and their relatives will be executed. The father didn't want that to happen, so he hid his emotion and the sadness he felt. The older brother noticed that something was fishy, so he didn't say anything suspicious, but simply asked to see the letter. Smith spoke and said with a forced smile, "No need, I would tell you what I read." He started reading, and the letter said that those who reach the age of 18 will be admitted in the Great Gravies College, and Jeff met that criteria, so he will be sent to this college tomorrow morning. When Jeff left for college and Zach went to school, they kept acting that everything was fine, but when they left, the mother cried on her husband's shoulder and said, "Sorry, my son, I wish this college never existed," while moaning as loud as a wolf. Their parents felt like they have abandoned their eldest son. It was mandatory that they fund his stay at this college, even if their son was about to disappear. After a year of studying at this university, Jeff didn't feel that anything was weird about this college, so he wondered why his parents were so sad when he left. He couldn't think of any other thought, which was that the university's fee was huge, so that was the only reason. He was being delusional and focused on that to let his fears go away. Jeff was going to class when he heard a conversation between the headmaster and a stranger. A girl from his class saw him face the wall as if he was hearing confidential matters. This girl thought that he was a peeping Tom, and that the headmaster was talking to a woman that Jeff was spying on, since it was a voice of a woman coming from that door. She was about to approach him. However, Jeff, filled with tears in his eyes, has fled. He bumped into this girl, which caused her to fall. The fall was so loud that the headmaster and the woman heard it. They opened the door, and that is when they discovered this girl. Headmaster called the guards and they took her away in order to silence her, thinking that she might have heard what they were discussing. They made up a story about how she stole a diamond ring from this woman, so she was expelled. But Jack knew that this was bullshit, and knew the truth about this college secret, but couldn't say anything, thinking that this could endanger the other students. He knew right then and there that he needed to protect his brother from this fate, even if he were to perish. Security was doubled after this incident, and no one can approach this cursed headmaster office anymore. After 3 years, Jeff was about to graduate, and luckily his class wasn't chosen to face the same fate as the other class of their college year, so he was on the safe side. His brother on the other side of the coin wasn't so lucky, because in the second year, misery will occur. Jeff became the doctor's assistant, and was deemed worthy of that title. So the truth was explained to him in detail, and that made him more certain that what he heard wasn't fiction. The year of the massacre was approaching, and Zach was ignorant of the story. It was time to tell Zach the truth behind this university. Jeff said with a serious voice, "It all started like this. There was a ruthless monster eating humans. To be exact, he ate teenagers. If this monster's reign continued, the humans will no longer exist, since the next generation will be wiped out. In order for humans to prevent their extinction, they made a pact with this beast that they will build this university for kids to learn, to get him fresh brains, in order for him to eat his food with flavor, to prevent more children to suffer the same fate. This year was the year of the massacre. I want you to be saved, so please, believe me and listen to what I'm going to tell." Zach understood and listened to the plan, but he was sad. Zach wanted the other students to revolt and escape from this fate, but it wasn't possible because of the grown-ups. Zach believed that the humans could kill that beast instead of sacrificing souls, but it can't be helped, so he had to live another day to fight and convince people to take action instead of cowering behind teenagers. One doctor and one class assistant were to look after a class. They pretend that they are going on a field trip. After that, they divide the class into groups, and one at a time they must enter the building to be eaten. One at a time, the screams of those who were getting eaten were louder and louder, but no one can hear them, since they were constructed a wall that blocks them. They were getting eaten and eaten until it was Zach's class turn. Jeff didn't want his brother to be eaten, so he started their plan. Zach pretended to have a stomach ache and said with a smug smile, "I can't continue this trip. Since I'm so ill, go on and enjoy. I will head to the dorm and wait for another field trip opportunity." It seemed that the plan was going to work, but the headmaster interfered and demanded to speak to Zach alone. The headmaster started to speak and said with a sneer to Zach, "Your brother is very brave. I overheard an interesting conversation you two had. I think your brother is very smart. I knew he would do something since he was attached to you. That is why I spied on you two. If you know what's good for you, you will go to that building, or else your brother, family, and relatives will be killed as a threat." Zach raised his voice and said to the crowd, "I think I feel better. I guess I can continue this trip after all," with a sad tone. "Don't worry, brother, it's fine." He was heading to the building with the other students, and the doors were about to close. But before the doors was closed, Jeff rushed inside. The students were walking to the dark path, and Zach noticed that his brother was there. So he shed tears and said, "Why? Why?" in a loud voice. The older brother said to his younger brother, with a keen and pure eyes, "If I die, I prefer to die with you." The monster looked at the brothers and said, "What a sad goodbye," with a laugh. Jeff was eaten alive. Zach was angry, and the monster was intimidated by his eyes. As he was about to eat him, suddenly, He was teleported to another place by an anonymous force. Was it God? Who knows? The answer was complex. But one thing's for sure. The determinations that Jeff had might be the reason he was saved.